Chris, your humble community servant. I'm here today with everyone's favorite artist extraordinaire, Stephen Dinelli. We are Kingdom Games ATX on all your favorite social media sites. That is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, etc. Today, we are being interviewed by a very cool dude who's been tweeting at me for months now, and we finally got a chance to talk. Nelson from VideoGamesInTheBible.com. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing very well. How about yourselves?
It's Thursday, so that's always a good day. Not quite Friday, which is a slightly better day, but always good to chat with friends.
Close.
Yes,
Close.
The weekend approaches.
There's a reason we do Twitch Thursday nights at 4:30.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start my stream on my end, and I'll be playing 5 and showing off, starting at the level where you really begin to see the 5 combine and do some really cool stuff together. At the Assault of Kila, I think it was, right?
The Siege of Kalaya? I've heard Kalaya, Kila. You're the expert. Kila. All right.
Kila.
The Siege of Kila, yes. The introduction of Shama, internally we call that 2-3.
Oh, okay. So, I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Making sure everything does not crash and burn immediately. Sorry about that. This isn't very interesting, the whole, let's wait 5 seconds to make sure everything doesn't explode. Hello, this is Nelson from VideoGamesInTheBible.com, and today I'm with some very special developers. This is Christian Games done right. Today I'm speaking with the developers of 5 Guardians of David Kingdom Games. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Excellent. Hey, everybody. Thanks
Hello.
for joining us.
So, 5 Guardians of David. Let's just start right off. I'm going to load one of my saves. And one of the interesting things about 5 is that people think that a Christian game needs to be made by an exclusively Christian team. But that hasn't been the case for 5. You have a multicultural, diverse team with a variety of backgrounds and faiths all coming together to make this one biblically based centered game that's actually very faithful to the original text while also focusing on making a fantastic game. So how did you guys pull that off?
Steven, you want to start?
I will say, yes, you are correct. We have a diverse group, and everyone has a different opinion on faith. I don't know where to go from there. It's we're a team of professional developers, and when we were tasked with this challenge, we just rose to it. It's like, wow, that's really interesting. I know for some of us, we're very passionate about what we're trying to do, and I myself am one of them.
I think it's also important to note a lot of people on the team are parents. I'm not, luckily, but a lot of people on the team are parents. And something that I've seen as a common theme is that they mostly work on M-rated games. It's like, well, I can't really, I can't play Saints Row with my kid. Like, you can't share your work with your family. And then this is a pretty good opportunity to be like, hey, we're working on something that's teen-rated, a little more family approachable, and now I can be like, I worked on this, I made this animation, I made this level from scratch. And I think that's a really cool element that you probably wouldn't see if you worked on something that's M-rated.
And that's a really interesting point, because I see a lot of discussion between developers as they get older. When they're younger, they want to kind of stun with this really subversive humor, etc. And I speak with older developers, and they're like, I just got to a point where I just looked at it and I was like, wow, I made that?
You see, I've actually, I've read an interesting article about one of the developers of GTA actually backpedaled on a lot of stuff a couple of months ago, actually. That was pretty interesting. So I'm intrigued that you saw something similar to that.
The developer I was speaking with was Martin Zrulis. He's another indie over at Kerberos Productions, and he actually worked on Bully, which was his kind of crisis of conscience, where he was like, you're more being a bully than actually fighting bullies. And that was an issue for him.
Interesting.
And that was another Rockstar Games production, strangely enough.
I don't remember I never actually played Bully, but
I was a huge fan, actually.
were you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, then you should speak to it more than I should.
I think the interesting thing about Bully was Rockstar's response to M-rated games. Like, well, you're just making games that are gratuitous. This is actually after Manhunt, I think, is when they started production on Bully. And Manhunt was, you think this is bad? We'll show you bad. And then they said, no, that's horrible. And that got banned. So they said, okay, let's do the same kind of open world game in a teen-rated environment. And that actually made people more angry because now you are a 16-year-old that's beating up other 16-year-olds.
Wow.
And so they felt like, well, you identify more with this character because this is a much more realistic situation because it's not killing people, it's beating them up. And it's like, that pause. But I think Bully is actually one of Rockstar's greater productions. But that is interesting that would be the one that people would object to because that was teen rated.
After the release of GTA 3, and it's strange we're talking about this in the middle of discussion on 5, but it's actually kind of applicable how this was shortly after GTA 3, and most of the team was game veterans, and one day a new guy came in who had been hired to work on Bully, and he was like, man, I hope that some kid does something crazy after playing our game so we'll get the attention that GTA 3 got for it. I think this was GTA 3, this was GTA San Andreas with the whole hot coffee scandal.
Yeah.
And he literally wished, man, I hope something crazy happens so that we get the same notoriety. And every one of those older developers looked up from their computers in shock.
Yeah, that's a pretty strange statement to make.
It's a
little egregious.
yeah, it's not.
Speaking of newer guys, is Kingdom Games wholly composed of game development veterans, or are some new people as well?
There's a nice mix. I'm new to the industry. We have some people that are on the younger side, definitely, but there's definitely people. I mean, Steven, you've been in the industry for what, 15 plus years, right?
Right.
I mean,
We used to make art with stones and chisels.
but yeah, I mean, you can see the resumes. I mean, as some of the developers that were formerly with us, as long as Deus Ex, the late '90s,
Right.
People who've been in here a long, long time, to people who this is their first job after an internship, or this is their internship. There's definitely a good broad spectrum of experiences and ideas.
I think
And even you, Stephen, you worked with Airtight Games on Murdered Soul Suspect, which was a game I had written off originally. When I finally played it, I was like, holy crap. Airtight Games also made Quantum Conundrum, Dark Void, etc. And you also worked on Kingdom Skies for Xbox, so you've been in the industry for a while.
I have. It's what I love to do. Honestly, I like to make art, and I like to do it with a group of people. I'm an extrovert, and I have to work with a team, and yeah, best ideas come from a group working together towards an objective. Certainly, and I play a leadership role here at the studio, but coming up with those ideas and going through the process of solving those problems and helping people learn the skills to do the same kind of thing and just become better at their craft I love it.
That's awesome. As I'm going through this Siege of Kila, I'm finding these little info dumps, basically, about what was fact and fiction about both the setting and the events that are taking place, along with scriptural references if applicable. However, these scriptural references can be totally avoided for those who just want to enjoy an action RPG experience. Was that the only step taken to ensure that though this was a game that could be enjoyed by both those of faith who would be like, yes, an awesome Christian or biblically based game, and by those who also just want something new and unique?
Yes, Nelson, that was exactly the idea. When we first started conceiving of 5, it was, we want to tell a story because the Bible is filled with amazing stories, but we also recognize that it's not for everyone. So how do we tell this fascinating story and yet not offend people or not dissuade people who wouldn't be interested in the biblical aspects, yet also include those biblical aspects for the people that are interested? So we try to incorporate both those options for the player, because ultimately it's about personal choice and experience when you game. So if you're really interested, and I think one of my favorite videos was from Amber Rain.
Oh yeah.
Amber Rain started playing 5, and she's not familiar with the Bible, and she loved the caches because it gave her exposure to a history she didn't know anything about. And we use the King James Bible because it's public domain as opposed to the New International Version. And the thous and these, she was totally getting a kick out of it. She has some wonderful Twitch streams playing 5.
Yeah, Amber's good.
Yes.
Nelson, I think your video feed got a little messy, man. I can't see 5. What happened?
Wow.
Just says video games in the Bible.
I think it broke.
It did break.
I think you broke the TV, Nelson. Did you break the TV?
I did not break the TV.
I think you might have. I think you might have, my friend.
Hotkeys. Scene switcher.
Oh,
That's the problem.
there it
There
goes.
was a plugin. There was an errant plugin interrupting the 5 action. I apologize.
It's all good. I was sad when you were talking. I wasn't sure if you were playing yet, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, we're all good.
Yeah, that is weird. But
Silliness.
Speaking of Amber Rain and the Twitch streamers that have begun playing the game and etc., how do you feel about the reaction to 5 thus far? Especially as a game that's biblically based, there's a potential that there could be, especially if it was heavy-handed, 5 is not, some hostility. So what has your experience been with the reaction to the game, and how have you felt about that?
People couldn't be nicer. I've never heard someone say anything negative solely based on the content. No one has said, this is a religious game, therefore X. In fact, it's usually been the opposite. They're like, well, I'm glad to say this is not catechumen. I'm glad to say this is not Super Bible Adventures. You know, there's never been anyone who strictly writ off the game on Twitch, on YouTube, or otherwise, specifically because of the content, which I'm really happy to see as a free speech advocate, to see people saying like, hey, I'll give it a try. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone has had positive things to say about all aspects of the game, but I've never seen anyone go, they're making a game based on the Old Testament, therefore X. Never, ever had that happen to us, and I'm very happy to say that.
That is awesome. Do you think that would have been different if you had made a game about the New Testament?
You know, it's a valid question. I don't think so. I think people tend to be pretty nice on the internet when, especially when it's their channel. No one really wants to watch someone. There are people who do well, and there's actually a recent YouTube controversy about this kind of stuff. There are people who do well for being overtly negative. There are absolutely people who do well. But I think on the majority, people are more interested in content creators that are creating something and creating a positive experience. And that doesn't mean that they can't be critical. They can absolutely be critical, but no one wants to really see someone who just bashes everything left and right. It's not that interesting. So if it was the New Testament, would it be a little bit different? I think so. I think there's a few more dogs in the fight when you start. When you talk about Jesus, I think you are touching a third rail for a lot of people. And I think it stirs up a lot more emotion than the Old Testament does. I don't think there are that many people who, when you depict David a certain way or draw out David in a concept, I don't think there's a lot of people who are going to go, well, you know, his hair is ruddy, and instead of ruddy, it's a little too brown. I don't think there's a lot of people. Whereas, you know, if you did Jesus's hair the wrong texture, or the wrong color, or anything like that, I think it would be a lot more contentious in that regard. So it's possible, but I think people, for the most part, understand that.
We just kicked a guy off of.
Yes, the ragdolls are amazing. Yes, that's a ragdoll, and yes, it is good.
Are the info caches the only concession you kind of made to let's provide as many options as possible for all of our players? Or are there some other things that might be behind the scenes as well?
I don't know if I would call them concessions.
Right.
I'm not a fan of that terminology. I would say there's an active effort to make it approachable without being too preachy.
Yes.
We use it's very common for us to say we want to expose you to the Bible. Here's a story, and it's an awesome story, regardless of your religious affiliation. It's a cool story, and it's a story of a man. I don't know if I would call it a concession. I might call it saying like an exposition.
Opportunity.
An opportunity, yeah. A different way for you to approach the content.
Yeah.
Regarding that, I think the way we developed the 5 Guardians to almost kind of like the gang of Ninja Turtles, there's the Shammah is the pious one, Abishai's the leader, Eleazar's the bruiser, Benaiah's kind of the chill, funny guy.
5, the Teenage Mutant Bible Turtles.
I actually like that as an alternate title, and I'm going to pitch that, just so you know.
Nice job, Nelson.
Very well done.
So, what you said was really interesting about this game isn't catechumen, this game isn't Bible adventures.
Right.
One of the interesting things about those games that really came off as kind of lazy, especially for the time period, was they took the gameplay of a traditional title and then just dressed up with a Bible setting. Now, 5 is an ARPG in the style of Diablo, but it doesn't have that same sort of reskin feeling, and you can tell in everything from the animations to the way that enemies fly over ramparts that you did a lot to make this experience unique and your own. So what challenges came with adapting or just having a biblical game in an ARPG formula like Diablo, and also setting it apart from all the other also high quality games in that same genre?
Some of the challenges were, and I would say probably one of the biggest challenge, and when I look at 5, it's still a concern for me, is that because it's historically based in our world, and people, essentially your enemies for the most part are going to be about the same size, and certainly some will be bigger, some will be smaller, but they won't be in a different size.
The giant Egyptian threw me for a loop, though.
So the Bible actually references a few giants beyond Goliath.
Yes.
And Shabiku,
Ishbi B'Nab.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. Yeah, it was certainly Goliath is the most famous, but he's not the only one in the Bible. So certainly when we can have giants, and then there is just the gameplay aspect of the more powerful captains and generals that you'll fight. They will be larger in scale.
Very funky hat.
Yes.
Yes.
We want them to stand out. We also ran into the issue of effects in combat. The desire was to make a very realistic, historically accurate type game.
So in most cases, the effects largely take the form of blurs and the swishing of your stuff, of your weapons and abilities and your body as you move around the world.
Correct. And what we were finding is that the actual gameplay itself, you were missing out on a lot going on. So with the update that we did a couple of months ago, I'm not going to say update, it's actually the upgrade.
The upgrade.
Yeah,
which finally made it stable enough to play on my computer at least.
Yes.
Yes, major performance pass.
And also, the enemies all their attacks tend to be a reddish tone, and then all the heroes' attacks tend to be kind of a light bluish tone. And we do that not to say, oh, hey, there's magic going on. It's just to help with the experience and you can set the enemies and the heroes apart a lot easier.
And I guess it's partially a little bit hard to go from chugging down health potions to chewing down bread,
Right.
As a hardcore ARPG player.
Yeah, it's the same mechanic. We just fit it within the story and the world that we've created. Because ultimately, for us, creating a good game experience is priority number one. We want people to be entertained. We want them to have fun. We want them to have good memories when they play it and want to show their friends or go back and play something again and really enjoy it.
And you're even doing things now to add to the replayability of the game so that people can not just play through the campaign of 5 and go like that was fun, but continue to come back to the games months after release.
That is correct. Chris, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, internally we're calling it the arena mode, but that might not be the most accurate title. That's a code name, let's call it. That's the code name for it. So in the near future, we don't deal with dates until we're in super QA mode and it's polished and amazing. But you will have a mode that is separate from the campaign, so you can play through the campaign, enjoy that nice 20-hour experience, give or take, and then you can return to this nice, fancy new mode that we've shown up on Twitch. And if you want to see what it looks like, there's nice couple Twitch streams with some gray boxes in them. Get to see kind of where it was at after week 2. 2 weeks into development.
Kingdom Games ATX. Correct?
Kingdom Games ATX on Twitch. That's right. Twitch.tv/Kingdom Games ATX. And you can take a look at the gray boxing and prototyping stream, which is in the highlights. And you can. I'm actually here talking with Brandon, our lead lead engineer, and he kind of explains like this is why you do it here, and you really have to find the fun. Is his way of putting it. You find the fun in the gray box in the test environment. And then you start to iterate and change. And then you go to the art team, and the art team takes over and makes it the beauty that you have before you.
That's
awesome.
Very true. Defining fun and gameplay it's an abstract concept. And it's much easier to do that in what we call the gray box environment, or just using simple shapes and determining what the gameplay experience is before we start layering in the art. Because if it's fun when it's very simple and prototype, it's going to be fun when it's looking really good.
So what we're currently seeing of 5, as low res and a little bit choppy as it is on my kind of potato laptop, the game doesn't look like that during development. It actually looks very rough until you find the general nature of the gameplay and, as you said, the fun. Is that a difficult thing for people who are non-game developers to wrap their minds around? Because I know, at least for me, to look at something like Borderlands and then think, man, they didn't have this vibrant world or cartoon cel shading on all this stuff at first. It started out as really ugly stuff with a label on it.
It's actually hard for developers also.
Oh, definitely.
Because we
have the vision in your heads.
Every project I've been on, it has been a fight to keep the art at bay until you find that fun factor. And usually it's a losing fight, because if the game development, if the game isn't playing right, or if the design doesn't feel good, there is a sense of, well, if we make it look good, it'll be okay. So let's get some art in there, and let's start making forward progress. And then there's also the schedule and the budget. If you have a staffed up art team and they need to wait another 30 to 90 days because you don't have your gameplay yet, it can be expensive. Though that's actually a lot of why Dark Void looks the way it does.
The fact that there was a disparity between budget and scheduling and manpower and the actual development?
Yes, I had 2 artists literally for 90 days with nothing to do. And both of them are production Unreal experts. So I tasked them with concepting in 3D. I'm like, you know what we're making, you know what we need to do. I need shaders with pools of water on the ground that reflect the sky. Mind you, this was almost 8-9 years ago, so all this technology now is commonplace. We need animated emissive textures. We need triplanar textures, so it looks like sand is on the top of the rock but not on the sides. And so I set them to task to do that, and they loved it. And actually a lot of what came out of that 90 days of three-dimensional concepting made it into the finished game.
Wow.
Yeah, that is not the norm, I would like to add, but it did work that one time, and I was excited about it. And
has it worked any other time that you've tried it? Have you tried it again?
No, and part of that is because the art is very subjective, and so as you're creating it, the art may meet the needs of what you want for gameplay and storytelling and the overall experience. But if one of the stakeholders doesn't feel like it's working for them, they will spend time and money to change things around, and it's it doesn't work. It works once in a while, but it really depends on the people running the team.
It's tough, Nelson, because game design is probably the most difficult part of the industry. You can tell pretty quickly if an artist is talented or not. It's the same goes for programmers. When you get to the game design, it's really hard because how do you quantify this is fun? Like what is fun out of 10? You know, what is that variable that says, oh, this is a great game designer? And in that regard, in the same way that musicians, I think it's very hard to say, well, is this song better than this song?
Objectively or something like that.
Yeah, there's not an objective variable that you can assign to it. Art also, but art you can look at one piece and compare it to another piece on a flat surface, whereas a game, you really have to play it for a few hours before you could really say, and you can really attribute all of the external factors and all the systems together. And that's what makes it really hard to know.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were saying?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying, and it's really interesting that you bring up how it needs to be separated from external factors and systems, because not only is game design so important, but you also have to say, how do the animations that play when you attack an enemy play into the overall experience?
Right.
First-person shooter developers talk about the difficulty in balancing guns, how a gun just sounding different can make players think that it's objectively more or less powerful. Looking at 5, so much attention has been put into sound design and individual bits, even to the noise that plays when you pick up coins, that it's hard to find. I can definitely see the difficulty in finding a point where you say what is either really right here or if something is wrong in the formula.
Yeah, and I think you've said you were a Lambier fan, right?
Yeah.
There's a really good talk by, I can't think of the dude's name. It's not Rami. It's not Rami, it's the other guy.
I just know his Twitter handle.
Jordan. What is it? It's Durap?
That's his Twitter handle. Jordan.
Yeah.
JWAAAAP.
I think his name's Jordan. I could be wrong. He gave a really good speech on exactly what you're talking about. Specifically, he noted it as game maker, saying, well, you basically build a game in a week and then you polish it for 2 years. And he said simple things like, let's take this gun sound and let's add more bass to it. And all of a sudden, the gun feels really good. You add a bit more screen shake to when you fire a bullet. You add a little bit of boost backwards, so your character gets shifted when he fires a bullet. You add ammo, so every shot matters now.
You add all the screen shake.
Yeah, exactly. You add these little tweaks and these little polishes, and that completely changes how the game feels. And again, that's where it gets into this weird kind of wishy-washy area of like, what is good game design? What is a quality experience? And all the factors of art and engineering and all the other things feed into that. And I think ultimately that's where it gets very tough to be a game designer. Very, very difficult.
And what's interesting is in the case of 5, so many of these abilities actually, when you're testing a specific attack, you also have to think of how it interacts with other members of the 5. Because if I switch over to Ben and Naya, and I do a knockdown attack, when I get to a large group of enemies, I'm not just attacking the stairs.
Hey, those stairs had it coming, let's be honest.
If I'm playing as Benaniah and I do a knockdown attack, I can then switch over to Eliezer and he can spin around in the group of people who are knocked down. Or Jashabine can do his multi-attack spear thrust, and all of these abilities just interact together in ways that you really wouldn't expect just looking at the game from surface level, that add a lot of variety to the experience overall.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. We call it comboing, but I don't feel like that's an accurate way to describe it, because people are kind of like, comboing? It's like, but there's definitely that interactivity between the characters when you swap in and mix and match those attacks. One of our artists, Travis, put together this footage for this gameplay trailer. It's just amazing, and you really see how he mastered it. He mastered the flow, the flow of swapping combat and intermixing attacks and using all 5 mana pools to create a massive cluster.
Which that's hard to do when you have to switch between everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, how good would you say you are at your own game?
I can tell you my boss is really bad at the game. I don't think he beat Goliath ever. He might have beaten Goliath once.
I think he did.
Yeah, but it took him a while.
Yeah.
It depends. Right.
Yeah, I would say Travis, and Travis is our level design and effects artist. A couple of the designers really accelerate at it, but the whole concept is that with the 5, between them you have the abilities that you need to take on all the enemies that you're fighting, and switching back and forth allows you to just crush it. And some people who don't really understand the mechanic between the 5 will just play one character all the time, and then they'll run into bad spots where they have a hard time getting through. And that's just not really... I think we should have done a better job of communicating, hey, here are each of the abilities of the 5, and here's how you use them. And then when you use them all in combination together, you can do this. And that's what's really cool about the game.
Well, that's one of the cool things, and you're absolutely right.
We have a question from your chat, Nelson, from I Am Scissors. Would like to talk about progression. As a broad strokes, every character has 4 layers of abilities times 6 hotbar abilities. Those range from...
The abilities menu?
Yeah, it's N, if you haven't noticed it. Each of those abilities automatically unlock as you level up. You are allocated stat points as you level to individually pick what you would like to enhance. So there's a bit of customization, and there is a whole lot of combinations you can put together, because every single character has their own set of skills, and they do vary quite extensively. So as you progress through the game, you can really build your characters any way you want. You could build all attack, you could build attack defense, you could build more stamina base, you could build... we don't really have a healer, but we do have buffs. So there's a lot of different ways that you can progress your character, and you can really experiment. And I think that's something that's really interesting about us, is we really give you the gates to be like, here's what this skill is at level 1. I don't really like it. I want to go this way. You don't really have that dichotomy like a Borderlands, or I guess it would be a trichotomy, where it's like you can kind of go this way, or this way, and you're kind of stuck. There's definitely a lot of freedom in how you build your team together.
And when you have all these variables, is it possible for players to get into a situation where they've stacked themselves so much in an area that it's difficult for them to progress?
Shortly put,
I just imagine it must be hard to balance.
Oh, balance is something that's ever present and on the mind. We have definitely had a lot of people, and this is an active choice. We definitely made the game a bit on the easy side. We wanted it to be approachable for a lot of different ages. Yeah. It would be very difficult for you to get stuck in our game from a progression blocker. It might be possible, but I find it highly unlikely. You never know, though. But if you did, you could always go back and replay from the map room, replay an easier level, and kind of gear yourself out.
So you can grind a little bit to get past even the bad choices of your own making.
Yeah, I think that's very likely. I'm sure if someone put it to the test, they may be able to find one way that they have purposely made all 5 characters so poorly allocated they can't complete the game, but I find it very unlikely. It's a good challenge, though, and I encourage anyone who can do that, please let us know.
I don't think it would be very
fun.
That
was an example just now. I used Shama's bee hornet ability to throw into the middle of this patch of people, and then I used Jasha Beam's dazing spear twist to destroy all of them in a relatively quick progression.
And it's really beautiful because Scott, who did the animations, did such a good job with this stuff. He worked at Volition for a long time, who I know you probably know have made Saints Row and Red Faction, and he's just fascinating to talk to. He was actually doing some mocap work. I'm gonna try and leak some of that footage with it's a rigging program that works with Kinect, so the Microsoft
Is
Kinect.
Is it a leak if you tell us beforehand?
Well, I mean some of the footage. I mean, like, actual footage of us doing the mocap.
Oh, of course.
Not like, yeah. I'm not going to leak his rigs. That would not be cool. That would be very nice.
That would be very nice. I really want to go back to what you said about David, because there is a boss fight between David and Goliath, and there was a boss fight between Benaniah and this giant Egyptian, which those are both biblical events. And it's really interesting just to think how the church, and this is just me freestyling a little bit, this isn't, speaking as to your intentions or whatever, but the church has kind of, in some ways, I've spoken to some other Christian developers, and the church has treated the concept of gaming as a little bit of a dirty word, when and even the gaming press has kind of slammed quote-unquote Christian games in the past, but really we just haven't seen good examples of these things done in a really exciting way that does tell all these things as a story rather than simply a principle and concept that you should memorize. Growing up, I believe that the Bible was a boring book, and I started reading it when I got older. I was like, wow, there's a lot here that's really interesting. You've got murder, you've got assassination, you've got intrigue, you've got romance. It's a fascinating thing, and I just love how you guys are actually using this ARPG formula with physics-based twists and ways that all the 5 can interact together. You brought these stories to life.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nelson.
It's ironic I'm wearing my Talos Principle shirt, but I think Talos is a great example of a game that took a biblical story and translated it into a very, very fun game.
Yes.
They told the story of Garden of Eden, a little different, but ultimately the tropes are there. You have the garden, you have your god, you have the serpent, you have all of the tropes of the story.
The god with unknown motivations.
Right, exactly. It's a very and that game was well received, and I could honestly see a church looking at that game and being very proud to say, well, here's a good way to tell this story that's more interactive. I think
if it wasn't purely faithful to the biblical canon.
Right, and I think that's important to be faithful, and I also think it's important to identify ways that you can introduce people to an interpretation of the story and then again say, well, if you would like to see the Bible version, here you go, and you can see the same.
With your info caches, where you even say what you made up and what is a part of the biblical story. Which,
Absolutely.
I mean, growing up in a Christian household, I remember growing up that there were some things that we didn't watch that were quote unquote Christian, because my mom was like, well, we don't know what's biblical and what's not here. And you guys handily avoid that just by giving the player the option, which is beautiful. It's an option for whoever wants it.
Yeah, there's definitely information there for everyone who wishes to seek it.
Yes. And it's kind of fun.
What is your favorite? Huh?
And it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. And that's an interesting thing. You guys focused on making this a fun game first and foremost, because no matter how great the teaching was, if this wasn't a fun game, nobody would be playing it.
Right.
So, especially in the area of art, how did you go about giving life to this thing while focusing not just on, being biblical, but just purely making a fun product? And something that was enjoyable both for the eyes as well as, the hands as you're playing. That came out really wrong. It could be misinterpreted. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. So with the art, we were looking at doing something more stylized that would be a little more visually exciting to a younger gamer. And we started going down that direction, but the more stylized a game becomes, the more time and effort to create all those unique elements. And,
such as?
Well, you have to... so looking at the city that you're running around on the ground there, so those stone tiles, you'd actually have to hand paint all of that look and give it a consistent stylized look, be it like a Borderlands comic book look, or a very painterly look like Diablo, or a very, I'll say, cartoony look like Torchlight. And whenever you do things like that, it can take a lot more time. If you go more realistic and you're using photos or visual reference that's easily found, like if you need to make some wood, it's easy enough to go out and take a picture of a fence and then start building your texture from that image of the fence. Granted, in some cases you're going to go into a sculpting program and actually sculpt the wood that you need. But with our process, it was, let's go through, let's get a realistic, it's still got some stylization to it, but let's get the foundation in there, and then we will go and look at the things that we want to sculpt in 3D and just take those to the next level.
You said that there weren't many giants, and this Saf dude is definitely disproving you.
I'm not sure who the giant is in Keela. It might...
It's Seth, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's Seth, yeah.
Suddenly this big dude pops out of nowhere, and I'm totally unprepared because I believe there were no giants.
Yes.
Well, you would be fooled.
Yes.
So as far as you spoke about stylization and kind of the conflict between, okay, how stylized do we make it? What was a feature or artistic flourish that was considered but was abandoned because it just ultimately didn't fit the final direction of the game, or would turn out to be too time intensive?
Are you familiar with the game A Tale of Two Brothers?
Yes, I am.
All right, so that was our initial visual direction. Once all the research was done and everything we wanted to go, I love what Starbreeze did with that game. The gameplay is inspired. You connect with it emotionally, and visually it was a spot-on stylization.
And I never realized until now that, kind of like how Brothers had that single-player co-op idea, you brought it to 5, but Now you're using all of my fingers, and I am woefully unequipped to do this.
I very much so.
Realized that was a gameplay influence. At first glance, you just think that it was Diablo and other ARPGs.
So as we were developing the product and we started looking at the time that we had left and the amount of work to do, we shifted gears, and we decided to focus more on a realistic, historical based look to it, and ended up purchasing a lot of assets. And that's something that I'm a huge proponent of, because you've got very skilled, talented artists creating what they love to create, making it available to purchase, and you can use it in your games. So we bought a lot of things from the Unity store, and just, I would say, arted them up. We would create different materials and do different things to them to create the unique environments. And you can still see some of the stylization in the game. So in the areas around Jerusalem, those rocks have a level of visual stylization in their physical shape, but the materials are realistic. And our characters tend to be, and for the type of game we have, you don't usually get in that close on characters, but they tend to be a little more stylized, and then the materials that they're wearing tend to look a little more realistic. And then
now we're coming to one of the cutscenes, and these are fully voice acted, and they're in some sections in particular, they're sort of a motion comic style, which was very well done.
Are you familiar with the Action Bible?
Yes, I am.
Well, you might recognize the style in the comics then.
Oh, so you guys have people who did the Action Bible?
Yeah, that's Sergio.
Sergio Cariello is the artist of the Action Bible. He was a part of the team. He did all the comics in that same stylization.
That's awesome.
Well, he was. I think he is a known figure in the community. No, maybe not for him, but the Action Bible is, and people have been using that. It's a staple. If you are a Christian in the past 10, 15 years, you have a child, they know the Action Bible.
Right.
This is something that I think we really wanted to focus on, is what do people like and what is familiar to them? What is the known? And that was something that was familiar, is, okay, well, that's been accepted. And traditionally comics, I think, face the same criticism video games have faced in the religious communities, where, well, they're all this way. Well, they're not all that way. You know, there's Mouse and there's other beautiful comics that are they push the medium, as you might say.
I love Joshua Beam. This dude is awesome.
People really flock to Joshua Beam. I think it's the animations, but it could be the flurry strikes. But he was my boy for a while.
I love the flurry strikes.
Yes, they're good.
Stab.
Yeah, just quick. Just
awesome.
Take them out.
Yeah. You're in Bethlehem right now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, he is. I think Joshua Beam gets all googly-eyed over Navira.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Naomi. Or no, that's Shema. That's Shema.
I think it was Nera.
Nera. That's it.
Yeah, you're about to hit Joshua Beam's shining moment, which is actually a nightmare for me. This is a part of the game that at one point during testing, the developers accidentally balanced it to be to have the boss fight be as strong as if you had 5 people to fight him. But you are just by yourself. It's his shining moment. So he had a lot of health, and he
every character have a shining moment? Because I've noticed there was one for David, there was one for Benaniah.
Everyone does. Abishai does. Shammah does. Joshua Beam does. I believe everybody does. It should be.
We also, Bethlehem has our Easter egg, too. The one that we were able to slip into the game.
Easter egg to what?
Just a little bit of goofiness that happened during development that we decided to keep in the game.
Could you tell me where that is?
It is after the shining moment.
Yes.
Be careful around the chickens. That's all I'll tell you.
We so during development, I was really pushing forward to get the maps done, and we were at the Polish Pass on Bethlehem here, so I wanted to place animals. And I asked one of my artists to put in the animals. How many passes
does the average level go through?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but how many passes does the average level go through?
Oh, dozens.
So you're at the Polish Pass, and what happened?
He started placing animals. Our animals are set up by design. All the characters are usually set up by design. So when he placed it, they just came in their default setting. And as you played through the game, suddenly all these chickens started attacking you. So we left one chicken in there, and I think we increased his health, so he might stick around for a while.
Yeah, for a while he was a one-hitter quitter. You hit him once, and that was it. But I think they increased his health a little bit, so you don't accidentally kill him.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. You're running around, you get attacked by a Vorpal chicken.
They want the players to kill him intentionally.
Yeah, actually, I think it was Max777 who's very active in our community. He actually was the first to discover the Vorpal chicken, and he put a guide up on Steam. I think he just called it the Crazy Chicken. He wrote a really funny guide about the Crazy Chicken. So yeah, thanks Mac for finding the chicken and explaining to everybody how to successfully find him and enjoy your time with him
and defeat him.
Well, you would never defeat the chicken. The challenge is to defeat the enemies without defeating the chicken, because the chicken likes to get right in the middle of the firefight. He does not care.
When Shama winds up to deliver that finishing shot or whatever, that is so cool. He just rears back and they go flying.
Like I said, Scott did a good job.
Nelson, do you ever zoom in when you're playing?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, that capability's there. So if you're looking for something that's almost over-the-shoulder third-person game, it's not to that level, but you can get in closer.
I zoomed in just in time to see an enemy taunting me, so that's something. I didn't even notice that before. Whoa.
So Nelson, we have about 5 minutes left, so I hope you don't mind if we put in a little plug. The game you're playing is 5 Guardians of David. It is available now on Steam and through our website, kingdomgames.com. We are running a variety of promotions right now, and we'll continue to do so. Most recently, if you use the promo code JAKARI, Jakari, to celebrate Jakari Jackson of InfoWars' visit to our office, we're doing a $5 off coupon on our website for the standalone deluxe version. That would be a non-Steam version. If you are a Steam fan, right now the game is on sale today on Green Man Gaming for $9.99. And there's also other promotions coming up in the future. Those are the other ones. We are on social media all the time. If you just stay tuned to those, we always post about our promotions. That would be Kingdom Games ATX. That's Kingdom Games Austin, Texas. On all your favorite social media, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you name it. And, of course, the game, again, is 5 Guardians of David.
So people can pick this up from Steam and your website, which is $5 off today, to celebrate with the coupon code Jakari to celebrate his coming to the office.
Yep.
Yes.
InfoWars actually put up a really cool little documentary, like a 7.5, 8 minute film about the process and the development and how do you get audio in the game? How do you get art in the game? What does sculpting in ZBrush look like? What does a gray box look like? What does Unity look like? It's a really it's a post on our social media. If you're looking for like a quick 101 on like the roles and the different responsibilities in a video game company, I encourage you to watch it. It's a great way to just kind of get an intro if that's something that you're looking to get into. And it's a fun industry to get into, especially if you're passionate about games.
Oh, so Shama's quoting some scripture right now. So is he Donatello?
No, we don't. It's not. It's not. Well, there's 5. Okay, so first
you got to answer that because I don't know. I know
Donatello
some of the names,
is the nerd. I don't think we have a nerd in our writing.
That's true.
We don't have the nerd. I think the closest to Michelangelo is going to be Joshua Beam or Benaiah. We don't really have a Donatello because we don't really have a nerd. Raphael is going to be Eleazar, and Abishai is going to be what's the blue one's name? I feel stupid now.
Michelangelo?
No, Michelangelo. Is it Michelangelo? No.
Michelangelo is the blue one. He was my favorite growing up.
There we go. All right, Michelangelo's our Abishai, and who's the orange one then? No, I'm confused.
That no.
See, now you're confusing me because I don't think you're correct. Hold on.
No, I'm confused. I may have been incorrect.
I don't know. All right, so you have Abishai's obviously our leader. We have our bruiser.
Last 5 minutes on this important topic.
It's very important. Eleazar is our bruiser. Shema is our pious kind of monk-like character. Jashobeam is sort of the prankster, and Benaiah is a little bit of the prankster too, but a little bit beefier prankster. And I'm forgetting someone. Eleazar. Is that everyone? Oh, that's everybody. Everybody. And then Ariella is our friendly sister of Abishai, who's the stealth type. Kind of does her own thing.
Yeah, and she really stands out in the second level of the game, second or third.
Fourth, and then
Fourth level.
2 more times or 3 more times. 3 more.
Awesome.
Times. Yeah. So
So
you return to her. You get a couple Ariella shining levels. Yep.
So people can support Kingdom Games by following you on Twitter. It's Kingdom Games ATX across Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, etc., and by buying the game, which is very, very good.
And if you don't want to buy the game, there are other things you can do. If you like what we're doing, let us know. Write an email to info@kingdomgames.com. You can also post on our community hub on Steam. We do giveaways every 100 followers for our Steam group, and you can join that just by clicking the follow button under the slideshow. And if you're a member of a youth group, a church organization, and you think that whoever's in charge of that would be interested, we would love to send them a code or talk with them, and maybe we can work something out where we do a discounted bundle or something like that. We would love to, get involved with the community in any way possible. It's not about the money to us, it's about the message. So any way we can interact with community grassroots efforts, we would love to. So if anything, just pass a link to our stuff on to somebody you know and say, hey, have you seen this? You should check this out. And we have plenty of friendly faces here that love talking to people. So send us an email to info@kingdomgames.com.
I'd like to add to that if you're a fan of the Action Bible and Sergio's work, we offer the PDF of all of Sergio's work that he did for 5 for free on the website.
All the comic pages, all those cutscenes?
Yep.
Yes.
Kingdomgames.com/comic. You can read the entire comic from the game on our website, and you can download the whole PDF. And then you may say, hey, this is really fun. I want to play those scenes in between that you don't get to see, because part of it's comic book told, and part of it's cutscenes, and part of it's gameplay. So if you want to get the full experience, you got to play the game.
Right. We also offer a 80-page art PDF. We have some phenomenal artwork from Manuel Gomez, Joe Watmow, and a few other people. Mm-hmm. And soundtrack. And I don't remember who did the soundtrack, but we've got some really good music in 5. And all of those are for free with the deluxe edition of the game.
Oh, there's Dekar. He's a jerk.
That's one way of putting it. That's not quite the language I was using when I was doing this boss fight in QA, but yeah, he's a jerk. I think that's a good way of putting it.
There is a planter behind you that if you need to, you can use that to keep it between Hugh and Decker.
Oh, no way. I'm fighting this dude head on.
Okay. You're a better man than I am, Nelson.
That was a bad idea. Never mind. Planter, there it is. Okay. Planter was a good idea. I guess my final question is, you're using the medium of video games, perhaps one of the hardest ones to pull off correctly, or not correctly, but to pull off in a spectacular, fun way to tell this story. You did a really good job. You've had some really good reception. What's next for the studio? And looking back, do you think that you can see the hand of God? Not to be melodramatic, but do you think you can see the hand of God in the final product of 5 and how it came together?
I would say that, so looking back and looking at what we've done here, I feel very blessed to be able to do what I do and been doing it for so long, and knowing that I hope we continue to be able to do this, because there is a lot in the Bible, and doing something in the New Testament would be awesome. It's just a matter of how people respond to it. I forgot your first question.
The studio development on 5 is continuing.
Yes.
I got it. I remembered.
Oh,
you threw me.
You asked me a really serious question, and it's like, wow, how do I see this, and how do I feel God's impact in what we've created and how He touches my life? So
it's a heavy response is response enough. Yeah. It's it all
up. 5 development is continuing. We are working on a codenamed project right now, codenamed The Arena. We've demoed some gray box stuff, and you can see that both on the InfoWars interview and on our Twitch and YouTube channel. That's just 2 weeks, though. That's 2 weeks of work. We have much planned for it. It's going to be really awesome. I was actually staring over Travis's shoulder the other day and saw some level work.
And actually, so I'll probably get in trouble for this, but we've got some really cool stuff that is not just in development, it is near completion and heading towards polish, but we don't want to tell you yet. I want to tell you, but the decision makers that I am a part of don't want to tell you. So folks, stay interested, keep following us. We got some great stuff coming, and we're looking forward to telling you about it in, honestly, just a month or two.
Yeah. Some cool stuff. In the near future, a Mac version of 5 is coming in the coming weeks, as well as Spanish translations. Spanish translations. Among a few other things that we can't talk about yet, but those things will be in the coming weeks as well.
About some there.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a drag. It's like,
blah. Well, I want to thank you for the time you gave. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. As I said, this is 5 Guardians of David. It's been Video Games of the Bible playing it. Nelson and I've been talking to Chris and Stephen from Kingdom Games. Follow them at Kingdom Games APX. And definitely, I mean, this is a game worth supporting, a studio worth supporting, and it's super, super fun. And I usually, secret about me, I usually uninstall a game after I finish covering it, because it's just overwhelming to me, just the amount of work to go into actually cover it. I'm just ready to be done with it. But 5 will be one of the few games I keep on my hard drive and then I keep playing after I cover it. So that's really high praise for me.
Oh, thank you, Nelson. It was great chatting with you.
Yes, thank you, Nelson. Thanks for sharing your community with us.
Bye,
everybody.
Until next time.
See ya.
And take